9/11 War Room, a weekly roundtable discussion that takes place every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in at 911warroom.com.
Deep breath. Let's get going. All right. Welcome to the 9/11 War Room. My name is Gene.
My name is Sandra. Today's October the 26th, and it's episode 206.
My computer is overheating, but I've bought this laptop cooling fan because I think the thermal paste came off the processor. For any of you IT guys that know what I meant by that. Well, if videos skip, we'll just deal with it. I'm going to try my best.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Episode 206, first news story from national news. They're still talking about drama. You can't expect mainstream corporate news to talk about 9/11. Real news, they just got to keep the drama going. And what they're talking about, according to Zoran Mamdani, the real victim of 9/11 was his auntie who got some alleged bad looks, says J.D. Vance. And this is what Mamdani said.
I want to use this moment to speak to the Muslims of New York City. I want to speak to the memory of my aunt. Who stopped taking the subway after September 11th because she did not feel safe in her hijab.
That was it. She didn't feel safe wearing her hijab after 9/11. The Muslim community did take a pounding, and Muslims didn't have anything to do unless you're Muslims that like to date pink-haired strippers and do cocaine.
Or Saudi Arabians.
Yeah, just crazy. So Vance took a swipe at him with that comment, and it says here, according to Zoran, the real victim of 9/11 was his auntie who got some alleged bad looks. Mr. Vance wrote on social media, posting a video of Mr. Mamdani's comments. Mr. Mamdani said in an interview on MSNBC on Saturday that Mr. Vance's comment about his aunt was inappropriate. This is all the Republican Party has to offer, Mr. Mamdani said. Cheap jokes about Islamophobia so as not to have to recognize what people are living through. Attempts to pit people's humanity against each other. So, again, I'm not a fan of socialism and Mamdani's, a lot of what he stands for there, but that wasn't a classy comment for Vance to say. But again, this is what mainstream media has to talk about because they won't talk about the real truth. Another story about it, still talking about Mamdani. This is sick. Conservative pundit faces backlash after posting cartoon about Mamdani riffing on 9/11 tragedy. On Tuesday morning, Larry Elder, who hosts We've Got a Country to Save and ran for president in 2024 election before endorsing President Donald Trump, on an X cartoon depicting a red plane with the word Mamdani written on the side with communist hammer and sickle symbol headed into a building that is reminiscent of the World Trade Center Twin Towers that has the words New York City on it. Elder captioned the post, which has garnered 2.1 million views, socialism. And here is what the cartoon looks like. Yeah, that's pretty bad. But again, this is the circus of mainstream media. Elsewhere in corporate level news, this is
news.
The Times of India. 9/11 attacks. Did Osama bin Laden escape Pakistan dressed as a woman? Ex-CIA officer makes new revelations. This blew me away finding this just this morning. This is John Kiriakou, 1 minute clip. Never heard anybody say this before. 1 minute. I'm just playing the first minute.
My name is John Kiriakou. I'm a former CIA officer. I was in the CIA for 15 years. In 2002, I was the chief of CIA counterterrorism operations in Pakistan.
Immediately after 9/11, you had the first response by America to corner these Al-Qaeda terrorists, and you had them holed out in the Tora Bora Mountains, and there was extensive bombing that was going on.
We did not know that the translator for the commander of Central Command was actually an Al-Qaeda operative who had infiltrated the U.S. military. We knew we had bin Laden cornered. We told him to come down the mountain. And he said through the translator, "Can you just give us until dawn? We want to evacuate the women and children." The translator convinced General Franks. What ended up happening was bin Laden dressed as a woman, and he escaped under the cover of darkness in the back of a pickup truck into Pakistan.
Well, I don't know if anybody else heard that before. I've never heard. I've heard he's escaped, according to Kurt Weldon. but I didn't hear him dressed as a woman.
Good story.
Yeah. Good story.
And this would have been when in relation to his supposedly dying of kidney disease in December of 2001.
Yeah. Yep. Also on Osama bin Laden in mainstream news from the Jewish news source. CAIR curriculum urges nuanced approach to 9/11. This is written by Daniel Greenfield. He's an Israeli-born journalist and columnist. Take with that what you may. He says here, it's the perfect time for new CAIR, Council on American Islamic Relations curriculum. The CAIR New Jersey chapter describes it as helping teachers adopt a more nuanced approach to 9/11 in their classrooms. Here's more of the nuanced approach. Quote, the U.S. fought the Soviet Union, who had invaded Afghanistan in the 1980s, by supporting the rebels that stood up against the Russian invaders, including a man named Osama bin Laden and people who later formed the Taliban. Goes on to say the CAIR curriculum then urges teaching Osama bin Laden's letter to America, which wasn't written by Osama bin Laden. It's kind of apologist for Osama bin Laden. The rest is expected, as expected. The rest is the expected Muslims are the real victims of 9/11 stuff. While Islamophobia and anti-Muslim racism existed long before the 9/11 attacks, this time period marked a stark shift in U.S. policy and state-sponsored Islamophobia in the U.S. and abroad. It then spends far more text on the supposed Islamophobia than on 9/11, where the deaths get about one sentence. How many teachers are adopting this nuanced approach of circulating Al-Qaeda propaganda and describing Osama bin Laden as a man standing up to Russian invaders as his defining identity? Better keep an eye on your schools. This, again, is just mainstream, trying to keep the official narrative going. And again, Osama bin Laden was used by the CIA to attack Russia for many, many years. Osama bin Laden being, I still haven't flushed this out completely, but Tim Osman, Osama bin Laden being a CIA asset. So this is just junk of an article, but I just wanted to share it because it's interesting who published. Next news story.
Michael had his hand.
Oh, go ahead, Mike.
Hey, I just wanted to say I've reached out to CAIR and I've been to mosques, including one that was bombed. It wasn't a big bomb. Nobody was hurt. It was just like an explosive set on the front porch. And I even wrote like $100 check at one of their things at the big fancy mosque. And the guy took it and he had to talk with his wife and he brought it back and he was scared.
Oh,
So I think it's a worthwhile organization to pursue with I handed out all kind of 9/11 information and they were like, cool. But they were still scared to like even take a check.
Yeah.
Oh, and this is my Soviet shirt.
oh my. Okay.
You communist, you.
I like the idea of approaching Muslims about 9/11 because, as we know, they really weren't the ones behind it. Dan Hanley agrees. That's 3 billion people that would really help if they understood how to defend and defend the truth of what happened behind 9/11. So
Well,
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a largely untapped resource that could be very beneficial.
but for some reason, they're really skittish about talking publicly. I don't know what they say amongst themselves. I mean, even back then when we were doing the translation team for AE, we had 30 languages covered. We had Arabic covered, but Urdu and Farsi, like the languages of the countries that were the most affected by this, could not get volunteers to translate if our life depended on it. It was weird.
It is weird.
Well, it's
Thanks.
not. I mean, what I heard from personal sources was we all know exactly who did it, and we know that we can't speak up because of who we think who we would claim did it, and because our own credibility is already at risk. And who's going to take our word for it? Because it's our horse in the race.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it's difficult. Thanks for trying.
yeah, we'll go to Lou and Sue and get back in the news. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Hey.
When I became aware in 2006 when I attended a Christopher Bollyn presentation with his wife Helga in St. Johns County here in St. Augustine, Florida. And in those first years, as a beginning activist, a 9/11 truther, um, I, he came to the States on his speaking tour several times, and on one of those, we sat down with some representatives of the Nation of Islam, and Farrakhan, was a target, I think, of as a representative of radical Islam, uh, so-called, quote unquote radical Islam, and they were the only organization that really supported the truth.
Hmm.
And so I think, like most uh, religions, especially the Abrahamic religions of Judaism, uh, Christianity, and Islam, um, there's a real reluctance to go against doctrine, and doctrine comes from on high with their priests and their rabbis, and you could call them modern day scribes and Pharisees. So it takes a real radical in a good sense to question these authorities. Thank you for listening to me.
Yep. Thank you, Lou. Sue.
Yeah. He mentioned Farrakhan. Didn't Richard Gage speak at the invitation of Farrakhan and got a lot of heat on that? I think he did.
Richard's here on the call. I don't know if he's listening actively and can respond.
Yeah, I think there was. There were 3 people.
Yeah, we sure did.
Richard was there.
Yeah, we spoke. I spoke with Christopher Bollyn and I think Kevin Ryan. Yeah, Kevin Ryan also at their plenary session where they had 3,000 people. And in fact, that happened twice.
Oh,
Yeah.
That was great. We had dinner with Louis Farrakhan, and it was really quite a swanky affair. And I was very impressed by him. He had what I experienced as a lot of love and a lot of tenderness, and a lot of dedication to exposing the truth about 9/11. He, of course, wanted to take it all the way to Israel's involvement. And that's why Christopher Bollyn was there.
And
Yeah. What year was that?
I think 2010.
Yeah, it was a while back.
Was
Yeah, you
one
got
of
a
them.
lot. Yeah, you got a lot of heat for that, though, didn't you?
Well, our board had a lot of disagreement, and one of the board members left because of it. Yeah.
oh.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's not why I raised my hand, but since it was brought up, it popped into my head. I raised my hand because there's a very well-known activist, Muslim activist here in Worcester, Mass, Osama Silva. And, I went to speak at their mosque, and what I found out is American Muslims were so heavily surveilled right after 9/11. That's the reason they're skittish. They know the truth, but they won't dare speak out. And I suspect that's the same case in other Western countries such as Great Britain and Australia, etc. So they got slapped into place basically right after 9/11, and it stayed with them. So that's one reason they don't speak up.
And there were so many Americans that hated him. They certainly didn't want to be any more disliked than they already were. Yeah.
Yeah, they were, everyday people, whether they were active politically or not, were surveilled and questioned by FBI and CIA and all the alphabet soups.
And God forbid they try to board a plane, eh?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you, Sue. Hopping back into this just because you brought it up. I did find that War on Islam 9/11 uncovered and exposed Kevin Barrett, not Kevin Ryan, but Christopher Bollyn and Richard Gage spoke out. That was February 18th, 2017. I guess that was the second
Yeah.
one. I got to find the first one, but I'll put a link to that in the show notes. Also in news, Tucker Carlson. Now we're getting down a little bit lower level, not from corporate media, but I guess not in height, but in anyway. The 9/11 Files, Episode 5 released. Tucker Carlson. I don't really have anything to say about it. He's left a lot more questions than answers, but I think that was part of by design. But then people all over the place in the 9/11 Truth movement on what to think about it. And on that note, AE 9/11 Truth, Andy and Craig did a podcast. 9/11 Free Fall looks at Tucker Carlson's series. They were a little skeptical, saying he's only going so far. He's only going to Lee Hop and not me hop. If any of you don't understand what that means, let it happen on purpose instead of make it happen on purpose. There were some serious concerns. And I appreciate that. Everyone has their own cup of tea on how to take it. Also, Boston 9/11 Truth, which has a new website. Go to boston911truth.org. They also did discuss the Tucker Carlson 9/11 episodes, and that's up on the Boston 9/11 Truth Rumble site. You can get it at rumble.com/Boston911Truth. Really good, in-depth question. We got into the weeds. Little firm in some spots, but everybody was respectful. And
yeah, but it was a really, really good discussion.
Yes, it was.
And people took the time to put some thought into what they were saying. Everybody brought up points, even if people didn't agree, they certainly understood where the other person came from. And it was just a really good exchange. That was a good idea to have had that, Susan. And you know, it had to be had because there were so many opinions out there about how much good this was going to do and what people thought of it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Sue.
Nope, I just was saying thank you.
Oh, okay.
Oh, her hand was still up. That's
Yep.
why.
And Roy.
I just got out of the shower and I haven't dressed, so you don't want me to turn my camera on.
No, turn the camera on.
Okay. All right. Hello, everybody. I look like Lou. I look like Lou here. Yeah. Without the beard or whatever. Anyway, episode 5 of the Carlson thing. You know, I'd sort of forgotten about it, and what somebody said something just now that reminded me. The main takeaway about that was like, I think over half of it wasn't about 9/11 at all. I timed it. I took the timestamps and stuff, and it was about the CIA and torture.
Yeah.
And one of the very curious things about it was this Kiriakou, or whatever his name was confessing to having been an essential central person in the whole thing with Al-Qaeda terrorists being sent to Guantanamo. You know, so that just seemed to me to be blowing, you know, the story they're trying to push about Al-Qaeda. He says these people are just 17, 18, 19-year-old kids and they didn't do anything and their neighbor turned them in because they didn't pay back a debt. All this kind of thing. It just seemed like sort of a senselessly self-contradictory episode that didn't have much to do with 9/11 at all. And then he had said in episode 4 that he was going to say in episode 5 who benefited from 9/11. That turned out to be the CIA. Yeah. A lot of time, you know, no mention of, you know, any industrial profiteering, any military profiteering. It was all, and then the other funny thing that well, I won't want to change the subject, so I'll shut up. I don't want to change the subject. I do want to say that.
Thank you, Roy. Good comments. It's 5:20 also. It's a time when World Trade Center 7 fell down, and we just want to take it as an opportunity to say a prayer for justice. I'm a Christian, so if you'll just join me for a quick prayer. Lord, come to you right now. I thank you for this day, and thank you for these people and all these different avenues that are moving for 9/11 justice. I just pray that you would continue to bless us, guide us, give us the wisdom to speak, give us the boldness to talk to others, that hearts and minds may be changed, and we would truly see that the tide turning. Just thank you for this opportunity, that everyone's here. In your name I pray. Amen. Thank you,
Amen.
buddy.
And I did want to mention to Roy, Kiriakou did spend time in jail. And I don't know exactly for what, but I mean, I think it was because he was blowing the whistle on some of these things that took place.
But that doesn't change his having been a perpetrator.
No.
He was actually guilty. He might have been guilty of something else other than what he was sent to jail for, but his hands were bloody with that whole thing. He was very much involved in it.
Yeah, agreed.
Good point.
He worked for the agency, and they were partly behind this so that they could have this power to just pick up whoever and torture whatever.
Yep. Next news story. So also, see, Boston. I did a little thing because it was brought up. Selectively edited videos. Tucker Carlson talked about selectively edited videos while showing Building 7, and I think he meant to say that some people are showing Building 7 just as the entire building collapses, but they leave out the penthouse. So he's kind of like, I think he's putting a little dig towards us, like questioning, are the 9/11 truth advocates not really showing you the whole video so you can't see the entire collapse? But I use it as an opportunity to show that there are 4 videos that were released by media and the FBI that purposefully, selectively edited the videos, which would also remove the booms, which you can. In the Stephen Bukowski film, you can hear the booms at the 1-2 second mark. If you put earbuds in, you can hear a low rumble. Also, Ashley Banfield clip. David Chandler did an excellent summary on that, where you can hear a lot of the booms through sound analysis. And there's other videos about the booms, but just watch this. It's not too long, and I think I did a pretty good job at this. Oops.
The issue with the controlled demolition hypothesis is that the widely circulated video of the building coming down is selectively edited.
Tucker, you nailed it. That widely circulated video of WTC-7 was selectively edited. But here's the kicker. Most of the videos released by the media and the FBI were tampered with. Let's take it step by step, because this stinks a cover-up. Look at this full Stephen Bukowski footage from West Side Highway. One thing I just want to point out, when they released it, they high contrast. You can't tell the west facade from the sky there. You can't see the roof line and that's key. If you saw that roof line was straight, it would be a different story, but they did that on purpose, I think. But let me play, sorry. At 5:20 p.m. WTC-7 with fires had almost gone out, then collapsing straight down as people scatter. The FBI's version? They cranked up the contrast, making the roof line on the west facade vanish into the sky, hiding those telltale details. Head over to archive.org's WTC-7 Collapse Collection. Bukowski's original is there with over 30 others. But these 4 FBI-released clips that I'm going to talk about suspiciously edited to chop out the penthouse collapse or the full building drop, erasing the sequence that screams something's off. The Allison Thompson clip got spliced by media or FBI before release, omitting the penthouse drop or collapse start. Same story with CNN New York Engineering 5 feed, edited to skip the penthouse or initiation. Roberto Urbain's north face shot from Greenwich and Harrison, altered to remove the penthouse vanishing or start, yet it captures that abrupt total failure like nothing else. And Klaus Lobmeyer's southeast view, edited to hide the east penthouse dropping first before the whole facade crumbles, masking the internal demolition signs. Now flipped to the NIST final WTC-7 report cover. Their model looks nothing like the real video out there. Watch NIST simulation alone. It's the weird asymmetrical crumple with an eastward lean dragging on for seconds. And my computer skipped. Nothing like the symmetric freefall we witnessed in under 7 seconds. This defies every unedited clip. Why fake it if it was just fires? Then there's the NIST's Patrick Gallagher in this letter. flat out refusing to release their full model and data for verification, claiming, quote, it might jeopardize public safety. Come on. Really? Contrast that with the University of Alaska Fairbanks independent study. They conclude fire couldn't do it. Put them side by side. UAF's model syncs perfectly with the actual WTC-7 video in that uniform freefall. NIST's a total mismatch. Tucker, why would they selectively edit their own model? Smells like they're covering something up. Yeah, so it skipped there, but you got the point. So I injected, trying to use it as an opportunity if he's going to call into question the penthouse is being removed in some 9/11 Truth releases. Let's go back and look at some of the other videos that really removed the penthouse dropping and the building initiation collapse. And then why did they edit their model? So I was using it as an opportunity to inject truth and redirect it in a different way. Oh, Roy, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't want to have too much time, more than my fair share or anything, but I did see you sent out an email on this, and I went and I watched it. I just went back now to give it a like that I had neglected to do before. It was very interesting, and thank you particularly for that Internet Archive collection of 31 different videos of the Building 7 collapse. Earlier today, I went through all 31 of them, and I looked at them all. And what impressed me, and what you didn't point out, and I suppose you noticed it, or maybe you didn't, I don't know, was how remarkably different these videos were from each other. I was reminded of Simon Shack's comments about the different skies on 9/11 above Manhattan. It had all these weird colors. There was a lot of that in all of these different Building 7 videos. What I wanted to do, what I would have done if I had got back from the lake earlier today, was to make a swatch of sky parts of the sky from all 31 and put them all up on the screen at the same time and see how totally different, meaning that most of them are altered, not just the CBS or the FBI ones. And the last thing I'll say about the FBI is, Tucker series is making like, if only the FBI had known about this and the CIA had told them, the FBI could have stopped it. Well, ha, ha, ha. We know that the FBI was in on this, and that wasn't what it was. And the other last thing is that if both the FBI and the media were doing it, that suggests a connection or a collaboration between the FBI and the media, which is also very interesting in this regard. That's it.
Thank you, Roy. Be careful, though, with the different color skies, depending on the camera and the color settings, that could grossly have them.
Yeah, but that much difference. And the ones that are really obvious, you yourself was talking about the one that was obviously blown out. So you couldn't even see the side of the building. And I think there's a lot of that kind of thing. Yep. But yeah, okay. Yeah, the cameras are different, granted.
Yep. And there were 20 out of the 31, 20 of them had the building already starting to collapse. So the majority of them took out the penthouse collapse and the initiation collapse. I did point that out. But again, thank you, Roy. Let's get back into this. Next news story. This was good. Just came out like an hour ago, so I only got 20 minutes into this. Brett Weinstein interviewed Ron Johnson in spectacular format, and Richard had sent it and said, hey, look at this. They mentioned us. They mentioned calling out Bravo 7. They mentioned the firefighters, and I'm going to the 29-minute mark, and I'm going, okay, well, when did this start? I'm going back 14-minute, 50. Like, oh, the whole show is 9/11. Like, this is just fantastic. I love the title, Commission Impossible. Senator Ron Johnson on Dark Horse. I got two clips. One's about 2 minutes. It is Ron Johnson discussing firefighters in World Trade Center 7. Let's start that one, and that's not it. Where's the 9-minute? There we go. Here we go.
asking a few questions, those who, you know, the firefighters, I mean, the families in 9/11, people who lost their loved ones, the people who really paid attention, that know that the narrative doesn't make sense at all. You know, just with a little bit of scrutiny, they start sending you information. You get, for example, links to, calling out Bravo 7, Building 7. I had never heard of World Trade Center Building 7, never heard of it. But I mean, this is 20 years later. You know, I like you, I'm reasonably well informed. Okay, I read a lot. I'd never heard of it. And then you feel like, why? And then you see that thing come down, and I've seen enough, because it's cool to look at. I mean, when you see a controlled demolition, I'd love to see one of those things in person, you know?
Sure.
And here it sure looks like we experienced that on September 11th, and nobody talked about it. Instead, you had NIST do a investigation, examined no physical evidence.
That's not exactly true. They did investigate physical evidence, but we'll let them go with that one.
Doesn't make sense at all. It's been that their investigation has been reviewed by a structural engineering professor up in University of Alaska, 4-year project. Pretty well debunks everything that NIST said. NIST will not release the data it used in its analysis. I mean, so again, you just start going down that rabbit hole. You start seeing very legitimate questions that are not even allowed to be asked. And that just raises my own suspicion. So no, my eyes are wide open at this point in time. And again, you talk to more and more people, and I just have more and more legitimate questions.
Right on, Ron Johnson. Let's go to Sue, and we'll go back to the second clip. You gotta unmute yourself.
Muted. There we go. I couldn't help noticing the dung beetle on the table.
Yeah, that was kind of wild.
I thought that was pretty wild. I love it. It's dung beetle rolling a ball of shit.
That caught my eye as well. Like, what is that on the what is he doing there? Thank you. And this is the second clip, where this is about 2.5 minutes. Forgive me, it's a little long, but Brett starts off, I don't feel like a 9/11 truther, but it gets interesting.
Buildings. And nobody, literally.
Be 2042.
Buildings.
All right, you got to listen to all that.
And nobody, literally, virtually no one wants to go down that path.
It's unthinkable. But of course, its unthinkability is the defense that prevents us from asking the questions that obviously are so pressing. So, two things. One, I don't feel like a 9/11 truther. I feel like we're damned if we do and damned if we don't. The truth is clearly, or maybe I've got it wrong. I'll be tremendously relieved if that's true. If I'm not wrong, if the anomalies really are the anomalies that I think they are, then as you point out, any answer is unthinkable. But not discovering the answer to that question is equally unthinkable. It is terrifying, in fact. And I recently spent some time with a very old friend of mine who he's not an architect, but he has spent his professional life in architecture. And he happened to be living in Manhattan on September 11th, 2001. And he happened to be living in an apartment where, when he stepped out the front door of the building, he looked down the street at the Twin Towers. He saw them fall himself. And he told me that his immediate reaction was, that can't happen.
Sorry, I got to interrupt real quick, because I was with I'm in construction management, and the architect that I worked to said when it happened, they were watching the TV, and when it happened, he turned to the engineer beside him, and they both at the same exact time said that's impossible. So echoing exactly what he said here. Also, Maximilian Rupert said the same thing. Second he saw it, that's impossible. Here we go. Sorry.
He knew right away. It took you and me quite some time to figure out that what we had seen couldn't be reconciled with the structural engineering. But then, it's another one of these things. You scratch the surface and you discover The Twin Towers were actually built to withstand impact by jetliners. A 707, and yes, these were larger planes.
And steel doesn't melt.
Right.
At the temperature that jet fuel burns at, or ordinary office fires burn at. It doesn't happen. That it just doesn't happen.
Right. And there have been lots of fires, and the buildings are charred, but they remain standing. And even if something anomalous existed in this context that would explain the difference between what you would expect to happen to such a building and what did happen, it doesn't fall, none of them fall like that.
And if they did, you wouldn't have firefighters, no matter how brave they are, walking up into danger trying, because again, the firefighters went up there because they did not feel like this thing was going to collapse on them. No, they're walking into danger. They got fires to put out. One of the more famous firefighters lost their life, Ariel Palmer.
Well, it was close, Oreo Palmer, but that's a great clip. Hats off to Brett Weinstein and Ron Johnson for approaching this topic. I can't wait to watch the rest of this one. As you can see, we're only partially in.
Apparently, that interview took place right around the anniversary, like around that week, I guess. And it took until today for them to release it. Not sure why.
How do we find it? Dark Horse?
Yeah, it's let's look here. My computer's starting to struggle. So Magnus, if you want to play videos, I don't know. I'm just trying to get through this. Commission Impossible. I think if you look up Commission Impossible, it's going to pop up.
Brett Weinstein.
Brett Weinstein. Yep.
Dark Horse is the Brett Weinstein.
That's his show.
Name.
Yeah. Chuck, what do you got?
Hey, could you just copy paste that into the chat? That would be so convenient. What would it be like if Senator Ron Johnson alleged that the 9/11 event was a case of treason? It was a state crime.
Say that again. What would
the conversation be like if someone of Senator Johnson's stature framed the 9/11 discussion as a matter of treason by the leadership in place at the time in the U.S. government?
That sounds to me like throwing a haymaker, and I don't think they. I would think it'd be calculated on. Let's establish the ground of what happened here and who was agreeing.
Well, I understand that, and we've been spending 25 years trying to establish what happened here, and I think we need to cut to the chase, because the fact is that we are being lied to. A lie is sustained by the narrative about what really happened, and the crime scene was covered up. I mean, there's so much evident crime that I think the way that the truth movement should frame the problem of 9/11 is, I mean, we could use the inside job language, but I think we need to elevate that into just a case of treason and start talking about what is treason. So that's my thought. Chuck out.
Make a case for treason, you have to first prove that these quote unquote, like Brett Weinstein calls them, anomalies are more than just anomalies. You have to start with that. Otherwise, what are you basing your treason?
Well, but that's easily proven. That's not that hard to prove.
Yep. So we got those hearings. I think it's one step. Yeah. I think they are. I think what you said is the end game. At least that's our end game.
All right.
Well, I think we need to amp up the allegations. Right now, no one's really alleging that. We're just speaking around it sideways and not going for the jugular. And the jugular is that we're just calling it. And this is why I call myself post-conspiracy theorist, because the conspiracy theorem is the evidence of the failure to investigate the presentation of false information. This is preposterous. This is preposterously false.
Yes.
So, in the scales of justice, to get a civil judgment, and this is even to get a civil judgment you just need the scales to tilt 51% towards the judgment that you're seeking. We've surpassed that. I mean, we're pushing into the beyond a doubt preponderance of evidence shows the nature of the conspiracy to do 9/11. It involved, and we've all seen the names. You know, you see the going from Cheney to Rummy to Chertoff to all these people across multiple agencies, including the Israelis. You know, it's all been done. It's just amazing to me that we're speaking around this. Okay, I just wanted to share that.
I appreciate that. And I think we in the 9/11 Truth Movement have been hearing this for 24 years because we've been in the 9/11 Truth Movement. But the majority of the masses and those in the political correct circles, either through ignorance or willfully or unwillfully, just haven't heard the information. So I think this is a new era where we plateaued for a while, if you will. And now I think it's amping up again. And I think you're right. We should focus on more, be more deliberate in what we say. So thank you for that. Magnus? Oh, you were unmuted. Now you're muted again. There it is.
Sorry, I don't understand. The menu just went wrong. I just wanted to say thank you, Gene. I didn't know that Ron Johnson didn't know about that building. And what we can do is to just try to reach out to other politicians too, because they are not aware of that building too, supposedly. And I was just wondering if you can share videos later. Can I try one later? Just 10 seconds of something?
Yeah, we'll give it a try.
Thank you, Gene. Let me know when I can do it later. Thank you.
Yeah, Magnus, thank you. Lou. Where'd you go, Lou?
I'm here. Thank you. I just today saw a presentation by the crew member of the USS Liberty, and he was speaking at the MEMES MIMES at Auburn University, where my daughter-in-law is a graduate of, and he called out LBJ as a traitor, and McNamara in terms of letting the unmarked Israeli. Now he did say he thought it was if they had sunk the Liberty, if the Israelis had sunk the Liberty, that it might have caused the United States to use just to foster World War III. A nuclear exchange, because he said there was Russian nuclear submarines there in the vicinity, 12 miles off the Sinai Peninsula, there on June 8th, 1967. So to the point of calling out the traitors, I agree. Bush, Cheney, Rumsfeld, we know it was a multi-level crime, as Christopher Bollyn puts out plainly in solving 9/11. The Bush family, being in charge of security, the Israelis being allowed to fly back to Israel, the dancing Israeli. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So I agree. Call them out as traitors right now, including LBJ, the Zionist, back in during the beginning of the escalation of the tragedy that was Vietnam. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Lou. I get it. Yeah, let's call them out. And I got a little bit more news to go through, but we got a couple hands up. Jerry.
Yeah, hello. Hopefully you hear me. You're spoiled. The problem, right, with calling somebody out is who do you call out? You're spoiled for choice, right? Because if you call out Bush, he says, "Well, Cheney was with me holding my hand when I lied." But the only people that you can meaningfully point that finger at are actually NIST, because they have knowingly lied to you. So if you were going to put anybody in the frame, right, even to get to the perpetrators by proxy, you have to go for NIST. NIST are the weak point in this whole story because they're the people who lied to you. And for example, on the 29th of September this year, NIST have a weak spot. Their weak spot is their Twitter feed, right? If you go to their Twitter feed just now, it's not manned because But apparently you guys can't work out your budget, right? It's not manned. But you go to the 29th of September and you will see that NIST tweeted, well, if a single column failed, they're talking about concrete buildings, right? If a single column, a supporting column failed in your building, would it collapse? And they cite the first building that they cite is one in the UK that came down in the late 60s. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's actually to do with, yeah, this report here, and there's a PDF and you can go and read it and stuff, and it's to do with concrete buildings. But the real thrust of what I'm trying to say here is look at this Twitter feed. There's not very many responses to this, is there? So imagine you're the campaign, right?
No responses.
Where
That's hilarious.
yeah, exactly, right, and look what they just said, and there's no responses to it. Now, I've publicly on Twitter in the past pointed the finger at this and said, you brought down the Twin Towers, and here's how you did it. 7's a done deal, but here's how you done the Twin Towers. How many people in our movement that have more reach, more influence, and more followers have actually tried to do that in a coordinated way? And I think we're missing a trick here, because if they, whenever the budget gets sorted out, came back and there was some kind of campaign here and they had a couple of 100,000 people tweeting them, they're going to have 200,000 notifications there, and that is going to catch the eye of people like Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, people like that. And they're going to say, well, why can't you answer this? Why can you do this big study on concrete columns and single column failures, yet you can't go back and study? They mentioned Building 7 in the Twin Towers in that, if you go to that article. If you can do this big study on concrete columns, why can't you go back and revisit the very disasters that you're talking about here when you said that you were limited by computational efficiency? It's a disgrace. They are the weak point, and I think we're missing the trick. If we attack them on Twitter, en masse, then they get a notification every time they're mentioned. And it raises awareness between other people like Tucker Carlson and people like that. Very interesting article. It's actually quite good. It's more or less putting a weak point, not a weak point, a more malleable kind of point in a column by using steel along with concrete. It's what they're talking about.
Yeah.
It's very interesting if you like that kind of thing. Thank you.
Love it. Thank you. This statement, 2 other important examples are the collapse of World Trade Center 1, 2, and 7 and the partial collapse of Alfred Murrah. So a partial collapse isn't a global, symmetrical, and through the path most resistance collapse. This is the only time it's ever happened in history. Some could say that the Plasco building, but the fireproofing and fire protection in that building was very under par.
Yeah, it's interesting though that the first example they give is this building in the UK in the 60s. It was a gas explosion that caused the collapse of the building. Why, if they're so sure about the Twin Towers and Building 7, why are they not screaming that first? Why are they talking about a building in the late 60s in London?
Great catch. I appreciate that very much. And Jerry's right. They lied to us, literally lied to our faces on this front cover. I post this a lot, so forgive me if you've seen this a million times. But on the front cover of their final Building 7 report, they show a west facade of Building 7 that does not match anything in the video. There's a blatant lie on the cover of their report, and then they say, we're not going to give you the model because it might jeopardize public safety. How about it's covering your arse? Anyway, thank you, Jerry. What else do I have? Yes, one more important 9/11 truth movement. This is Richard Gage 9/11 response by Niels Harrit, PhD, to Bob Greenyer's ending the nanothermite hypothesis. There was this 2 or 3 hour video that Bob Greenyer put out saying he's dismissed nanothermite. It's not a thing. And
it's paint chips.
Niels came back in force and wrote this big, long article. I love it because Richard also put the graphics in it and everything for you to read through. Helps you figure it out. Helps you read through it nice and easy. I just want to read the letter that Niels left at the very end. Mr. Greenyer, and this is Niels writing this. If you think that your standard anti-corrosive paint can react like that, You may take a seat on the bank of the East River, New York City, and wait for some Tesla to catch fire on the Manhattan Bridge. The chain reaction that should follow on the cables of the bridge is bound to be pretty spectacular. Rather, do what any decent scientist would do. Take your stuff to a well-equipped lab and repeat the experiments described above. Show that your standard anti-corrosive paint can reproduce our results. Write up your findings in a regular manuscript and submit it to an open peer-reviewed journal for everyone to evaluate. Then take your findings to a plenum of unbiased scientists and let us have a discussion. In that case, great. If you can also document that this standard anti-corrosive paint was used in WTC7, it starts getting really interesting. In anticipation, Niels Harrod. I love it. So,
in anticipation, I love that.
Yep.
He's appropriately arrogant with a dash of humor.
So check it out. I had asked Grok how many people had tried to debunk the active thermitic paper. There's a list of like 10 people. One from a lady that was at the Open Chemical Journal, the Bantam Open, forgive me. And she left because she says this got approved before I could say anything, and she quit or something like that. And Millet paper, and there's just a bunch of them, and they all don't do their job. There's responses to everything from the aluminum slugs were disproven. I can't speak intelligently on it right now, but that this was paint chip used methylethyl ketone and dissolved the paint what they thought were paint chips, and they didn't dissolve. And they're just one thing after another. Roy, go ahead.
I'm in touch with Grenier, and I guess I sort of signed a non-disclosure agreement. I saw a preview of his response to Harrod's response, and he's quite mockingly derisive of it. And he says he's quite confident that he's going to wind up on top. And what Harrod did with this, produce an academic peer-reviewed article. It's exactly what he did with the BBC interviewer that was telling him about the metallurgists who were criticizing his paper back in 2009 or shortly after that. The fact that he's written an academic paper or a couple of academic papers doesn't mean that the academic paper actually has any actual scientific weight. We'll remember that the 2009 paper was scandalously withdrawn, and the editor of the journal resigned over it, and all this kind of thing. The letter specifically seems of Harrod, I'm talking, this last one seems a bit, aside the point and silly, because Harrod seems to be assuming that Grenier is saying that the paint blew up the buildings, and the paint acted like thermite and it was explosive or incendiary or something. And of course, that wasn't what he meant at all. So that just doesn't make any sense. I shouldn't say any more because Grenier told me not to, so I guess I won't say any more.
No,
quick response to Roy there. I agree, Roy, with you that Harrod went after a straw man at the end there. But that does not take away from his main point that that paint that Grenier described was not installed in the Twin Towers, and B, that the chips that they found, Harrod's team found, and put in the differential scanning calorimeter produced an active thermitic response, which the paint chips from the World Trade Center towers did not. That was 95% of his point. So I hope Grenier has a solid response to the 95% of Harrod's point and doesn't attack the straw man that Harrod threw out, which is only 5% of his point at the end there.
Well, the only other thing I'll say is that I think you mean that Barrett said that there was only one paint that was used on the steel in the towers. So it was just that one paint, and without wanting to reveal too much of what Grenier was saying, which I don't even remember anyway, it's too technical for me, so I couldn't even reproduce it if I wanted to. But he was saying that there were other buildings that were affected on 9/11, and that it wasn't necessarily Twin Towers or something like that. But I shouldn't even say that, I guess. I think I'll just leave it to him. He says he's busy with other things, but he's going to get around to this, and he'll be producing something else on the subject. I don't think it's a closed issue, and I don't think Harrod's response puts the matter to rest, as seems to have been implied here, but we'll see.
When he does get around to it, I'm hoping that he will take the paint chips that he has found at the 9/11 War Memorial Museum and puts them in a differential scanning calorimeter. He'll find that they just char like all other paints. They don't ignite at 420 degrees Celsius and produce molten iron microspheres.
Yeah.
Okay, well, he should reply to that. Yeah.
Thank you, Richard and
I say he should get some paint and get the same scan, get the same results as the dust that Barrett had. That would be pretty conclusive for me if he could do that. Get the same thing out of it. But he has to get the paint.
Yeah.
We appreciate doubt, and if anybody has questions and they do it in a civil way and they're able to go back and forth, I would love to see what comes of all this. So thank you.
There's about 250 sculptures around the country. Excuse me. There's 256 pieces of steel that were saved. Many of them were turned into sculptures, and a lot of them have paint that's peeling off of them. So it shouldn't be too hard to retrieve.
Interesting. Thank you, Richard. Jetty.
I think I have the original contract somewhere for the paint. I've definitely got the fireproofing contract, and I think it's maybe on there that it's to be covered. But if this paint was going to go off in the towers that way, it would have went off in 1975. There was a 6-floor fire that lasted for hours and hours, quite low down in the North Tower.
Yep.
And there's more substantial steel lower down in the tower, so there's more paint. So if it was going to go off in that way, it would have went off in 1975. And I think that kind of makes the point really about the paint, doesn't it? But
No,
because they has to
what
repaint.
Roy is saying is that the paint is not thermitic, and therefore it wouldn't go off on the Manhattan Bridge or in 1975. That's his point. So we're asking him to, what we have proven is that the red-gray chips that Barrett team found did ignite at 420 degrees Celsius and did produce iron microspheres. Paint can't do that.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. I think the whole paint thing is like the galvanic corrosion argument, whereas it's like, wait a minute, you don't put together a building this size and make that kind of mistake, do you?
And
yeah, and it was a big mistake. Yeah.
I said it a couple times. Methylethyl ketone, MEK. Like they put Niels Harrod and Jones put these chips in this solvent and they did not dissolve. They puffed up a little bit, but they did not dissolve. You put paint in this methylethyl ketone, it dissolves. So what they had wasn't paint chips.
And I wonder why Barrett didn't repeat that point, Gene. I don't know why.
Yeah. Thank you both. It should be interesting to watch how that plays out. Let's see what else. Any more news? One, I think I might just open up the table. I had some video clips that I wanted to share. I could do it later on. So there were 2 instances of, I'll just talk about them briefly. I won't play them right now, but Charlie Kirk was seen with a U.S. veteran talking about 9/11. This is back in the day. And the guy came off really anti-Semitic. I got to say, he just did a really bad job of defending 9/11 truth. And then later on, I just found this one recently. A guy came up and says, "Hey, that viral video,
There's this viral video going around
about that guy," and then he tries to discuss with Charlie about the passport and trying to really get in. He did a much better job trying to present 9/11 truth to Charlie in this one. And if we get a chance at the end, I'll show that. The only other thing I had, Tim Brown was a FDNY. He was walking into 1 when the building started to come down, when 2 started to come down. They ran into 3, and I put a stitch. Go ahead.
Sorry, just before you start, because this is a video that Jerry sent us for different reasons.
Yes.
Because part of his testimony, I don't know if you put that in the text.
I did not.
Part of his testimony was that he could see fire at the bottom of the elevator shaft of 1, right?
Yes,
1.
yes.
And he blamed it on the jet fuel that supposedly.
Or no, 2. This was 2 that he saw that.
That was 2?
Yeah, because he got they were credited with getting 3 people out of the elevator, and the firefighter that helped him, and the other people had died when the building collapsed.
Right. So we came across this clip for that reason, and thank you, Jerry, for sending it.
Yep.
But then it caught Gene's. Anyways, Gene did something else with it.
I just did some overlays with, the collapse right when he says it started to happen and what he experienced. And then I stitched in the movie with Nicolas Cage. Just they had found that the winds produced from the collapse were 160 miles an hour. Like, you have a displacement, potential energy, kinetic energy. For anybody that's paid attention in physics class, energy due to height is potential energy. When it falls, it's now produced into kinetic energy, energy due to movement. So all that building moving down is displacing air, and that air had to go somewhere. So they were talking about how there was this 160 mile an hour winds, and they do a good job portraying it here in the video clip. It would have just blown everybody everywhere. I think there's a lot more I could say about that, but I'm not. If we get a chance at the end, maybe I'll show that clip. Very interesting testimony from that gentleman. And just one other fun thing. Do I want to share that? Oh, yeah. We'll save that for the very end. We'll save that. Let's open up the table. Anybody else?
Time. You know that.
New 9/11 news. Anything else? Boston, I guess, before I get to you guys, Boston did have some dates coming up. You want to get your pencil out for these ones. I've been saying them, so you already are aware. Boston 9/11 Truth, October 30th. That's this Thursday. Oops, I'm missing a couple things.
John Cole.
Yeah, John Cole, last 30 seconds, October 30th. November 13th, Dan Noel. November 25th, Bob Runyon. December 11th, Mark Rossini, which were really interesting. And Josh, I would love to see you there. And January 8th, Nelson Martins, which I would also like that whole gang to be there too, because they know the geopolitics part of it as well. So that'll be really interesting. Also, Deep State Crimes with Craig McKee and Cheryl Curtis. That's October 29th. They're having Xander Arena on. That's coming up this week. So be there for that. And that's all the news I had to share there for events coming up. Magnus, what do you got?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you please try my video before I try it?
Yep, let's give it a try.
2 minutes and 30 seconds. It's Dan Ratter.
All right, here we go. 2:30. See how this goes. It might skip, but we'll see how it goes.
Thank you for.
You're welcome.
I'm late to this thing. Why we haven't heard anything? I want to commend you, obviously, on your reporting on 9/11.
Well, thank you.
On the comment about the third time today seeing the buildings fall, placed dynamite. Maybe you could elaborate on that. Like I said, why we haven't heard anything more about that, especially with the failure of NIST reporting and still not being able to give us an answer on World Trade Center 7.
I'm glad to meet you. I respect the question. I respect it enough to say that to give a short, brief answer is long. Is not. I appreciate it. But I was reporting live at 9/11, and I reported what I saw and tried to describe it as accurately as I know how. I appreciate it. Not at all.
If we did get a 9/11 investigation, would you be able to support it? If we were able to get a new 9/11 investigation, would you support it?
Well, I'm always interested in turning up new information. I would be honest with you and say that I have my doubts what that investigation would turn up. That's different. But if there's a new investigation, I certainly would follow it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. You have a good night.
Nice.
Thank you, Gene.
Good clip. Thank you for that. Dan Rather. Let's go to Ross.
Okay, sorry, it took me a while for the mute there. So I guess start with Tucker. I remember hearing the ending conversations of of Steve and everybody on the goodbyes last week, and I think it is pretty clear at this point after the 5 episodes that definitely is a head fake. It's an easy litmus test to pass when you're talking about somebody's got the real, truth and the real truth and not a head fake in mind. They're going to mention that the 2 towers were taken down with the use of explosives, the 2 big towers. And so I don't believe Tucker ever broached that subject. So a lot of it's merely just muddying the waters again. And so I think Tucker is one of the, as he has been, one of the payrolled opposition people. And I don't think that's changed. And
Buddy,
we were hoping that it would, but he didn't mention anything about the towers being blown up using explosives. So therefore he fails. In terms of the Arabs and the Muslims and the Muslim world and why we might want to get them more involved, they are definitely, they know who did it. And that's because they have been stepped on by those people for decades. And that would be the CIA and their counterparts. And and the other big aspect of it is the cultural aspect. The Muslims in New York, a lot of the ones that I run into from the skateboarders on the street that see what my message is, they're taxi cab drivers and working class people, and they're all very excited to explain to me, no, it was bin Laden. It was bin Laden that brought him down. And this is because of the pride. They have been stepped on for decades by the U.S. and the imperialists. And now that they've got this big pride in being able to take down the 2 most prominent architectural buildings in the history of Western society and probably in the history of the world, and they were responsible. So they like to take credit for that. So there's a big contingent of those people that want to keep the official story in place. So I think basically the idea is basically leave them alone. They've been taken backward and forward, and they've got their own train they're riding. It's our responsibility to put the pressure on our government as American citizens. We're the ones that have been lied to, so it's our responsibility, and we should focus on that, I think. Also, with this language about how we should be more aggressive, one of the things to do is definitely stop saying collapse and start saying demolition. It's always the collapse. When the collapse started, this collapse began. The collapse, this, that, collapse, that. Nobody and everybody's saying that. If you don't start saying the demolition occurred, this is when the demolition happened. That word has to become ingrained in our language, and the word collapse has to fade away. Then lastly,
real quick on that,
I'm a little confused just about.
Just real quick, I agree with Jerry's comment on that. A demolition is a collapse. Like if something's demolished, it is collapsing. So it's a little.
Well, that is not what the public thinks. I think the public thinks, a layperson thinks a collapse is what the official story has been saying, is it's a collapse. You got to say they were blown up. How do you do that? It's called a demolition, a controlled demolition. So you don't have to use the word controlled. But if you say collapse, that's too generic. And so, yeah, you may be able to, parse the word and make it into an explosion. But nobody knows that. What the lay people know is that collapse means the building is falling. Doesn't mean it's being blown up. So you need to say the demolition because people understand that to mean it's being blown up with explosives.
Yeah, I think
so. That's the point I'm trying to make. But
yeah, I would think I would just
go ahead.
Demolition is a collapse, but not every collapse is a demolition.
Yeah, so if given an opportunity, to be more specific, mention it as a. I agree with you on that. Thank you. Or adult demolition.
Yeah, I just think it's too in line with the official language. Anyway, I'm kind of breaking up because I'm not around right now, but I'm not close to you guys. Anyway, the last thing I'm kind of confused with now after hearing Richard talk and just being confused, I think, about it in general is what does Neil Harrett think, or what does Richard think? I'm not sure what they think those red gray chips were, how they were in the building, what they were used for. Were they applied as a coating, or were they?
I have my theory.
Me too.
Wayne
Costi believes.
What?
And so does Wayne Costi. He believes they were painted panels, I believe, on the core columns.
Yeah. Since we know that the American Society of Testing and Materials did a report C856 showing that concrete disintegrates to its original hydration products, aggregate, sand, and cement powder at temperatures above 1500 degrees Fahrenheit. And that the Fire Safety Journal documented that it decomposes completely at temperatures above 2200 degrees Fahrenheit. That the concrete could have been pulverized or disintegrated.
Disassociated.
I wouldn't use that term.
Disassociated is a psychological term. You can't.
Disassociation of materials. So we'll go back to its component parts.
Yeah, but that's a term that's used by others.
Oh, I got you.
We don't want to parallel language. We're going to have to mute somebody. I don't know who that is.
I think it's Ross.
I think it's Ross. I don't know.
Yeah, it's Ross. Also,
Just
don't forget that every floor was only 4 inches. So 4 times 110 only equals a couple of feet. Okay.
There's a dozen of them that were 8 inches thick. So I think that's a good point, though. I don't think they painted this stuff on beams, and that would have had the desired effect. It might have heated them up and softened them. I guess that's possible. But we know it can disintegrate concrete. So Kevin Ryan documented that the fireproofing upgrades, which interestingly, many of those floors were the floors that were hit by the planes. And that they could have had an undercover operation during the application of what we're told is fireproofing, which could have been liquid applied thermite, because there is liquid applied fireproofing. It's called intumescent paint. So I think they applied this to the bottom of each of the floors, which would have evaporated the 220 acres of metal decking, thousands of lightweight steel trusses, and pulverized the concrete also. That's my personal theory based on what we know about temperatures in concrete.
We should put the rest
So that happened to be, they applied that to the bottom of the floors before the fireproofing was added, the fireproofing.
Or instead
in
of the fireproofing. We don't really know.
I'm sorry?
Or instead of the fireproofing.
Yeah, so they sprayed on fireproofing on the floors after, the building was built. So you put that thermitic paint on the fireproofing, or maybe you put it on top of that fireproofing as well. Is that
Well, probably directly on the metal decking would be a lot more effective.
Yeah. Well, I don't see that happen unless it happens before they're installed in the building, and that happens in a factory. That's 200 acres worth of, because you're not just talking about where the planes hit or those damaged areas, but the entire building, correct? And
well, yeah, it's a huge job,
especially when you work back the percentages. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm kind of breaking up, so I'll end. But yeah, the iron microspheres issue, the percentages, it did work out in my calculations based on the dust pile to be 200 acres worth, which if you put some numbers to that, you can see that's quite a hell of a job. Yeah. I don't see how it's possible to take that in afterwards. It has to be done in a factory beforehand, in my view. But anyway, I'm glad to know that you don't think it was applied to the columns or to the exterior columns on the exterior frame, but on the wall panels, exterior wall panels. Anyway, I also don't think Wayne Costi's numbers work out either for something that's practicable to be installed. But it's good to know that I think we're on the same page.
We should also
Well,
clarify that Richard doesn't, his, as I understand it, isn't that thermite was the primary mechanism for the collapse.
high energy explosives were inevitably used to hurl those 4 and 8 ton structural steel sections laterally at 80 miles an hour, landing up to 600 feet in every direction. But they were trailed by thick white smoke clouds.
Yep.
Now, that could be from high energy explosives. It could also be from thermite cutter charges, or both.
Not frothing? No, just kidding. Sorry, bad joke. All right, thank you. Ross, anything else?
I'm muted.
Yeah, so I'm just again going to say, well, I think the concrete is what we don't know about that would endanger public safety. Remember, the Pulaski building too was not a steel frame building; it was a reinforced concrete, so it was well fire protected as a concrete frame.
Wait, is that actually?
And it came down in the same way as 1 and 2. I'm sorry, not Pulaski, the Brazilian building, Pérez, was a concrete frame, reinforced concrete frame, and Pelasco was steel frame, but it had the concrete floors, I believe. So anyway, I think the explosive secret here that we can discover, we're not like Judy Woods, who just kicks the ball into the court of the government saying we don't know what you did, we just know you used a special weapon. We can uncover what they did, even if we don't know, even if there is some secrets to it. Scientifically, that's what science is about. I think concrete can do even more than just break into its individual components at 1900 degrees Fahrenheit or Celsius, but it can be actually a propellant explosive, which propellants tend to be like a concrete. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm headed.
Go to Roy.
Yeah, here's some news that I'm sure Gene and Sandra will appreciate very much hearing this. I don't know about the other people. I have to, as quickly as possible, summarize the situation to date. Is that I went to a 9/11 commemoration in Holland in 2007, and somebody who had been at Building 7 on 9/11 had gone in there from Brooklyn and been told by the fire chief in charge that they could go in. When they asked what they could do, he said they could go in and put out the few small office fires. And so they were gearing up to do that. And he came back up to them and said for them not to go in. And so I talked to this fellow after this event, and he told me that the name of the fire chief and spelled it out for me. And I looked it up on the internet, and I found out that this fire chief had been promoted without the necessary qualification on September the 10th, the day before 9/11. And, I thought this was very significant and should be looked into. And then it turned out later that he didn't even have the fake diploma on September 10th, and he was and promoted on the basis of nothing. He was not qualified at all, and whatever the motivation is. So, the last for years, I've been wanting to get back in touch with this fellow, Lieutenant Steve Brown of Squad 1 in Brooklyn. And so the news is that I finally found him myself. I was trying to get Eric Lawyer to find him. I was trying to get Raul Angulo to find him, and then trying to get some help, trying to get somebody in New York. I tried to get Ross. Ross will remember I tried to get him to check about the Brooklyn firehouse and everything. But I finally found him myself. I found him on Facebook.
Oh.
And I wrote him a couple of times and said, where I'd met him and that he'd told me about Pharaoh, and I had information about Pharaoh that I thought would interest him, but he won't write back to me. He's not responding. After all, it's kind of ironic and funny. After all these years of wanting to get in touch with him, I finally do, and then he won't talk to me. So that's that.
Did you try to reach him like via messenger? And if so, does your message come across as read or not even opened?
Let me just see real quick here. I think it showed as red.
Also, Roy, if we give that information to Raul Angulo, he will try to contact him,
Yeah.
but he'll need the full background that you just gave us. If you're willing to write that down.
Raul has it. He has the whole story.
Oh.
And what I have here in Messenger is delivered. Just delivered. I don't see the icon with the profile picture that he actually looked at it. So maybe he didn't see it.
Some people don't have Messenger or don't use it. And
Or if it's somebody that's not a friend, it just goes into this, if you will, spam kind of.
yeah, message. It goes under message requests, and if they don't see it immediately, it usually gets lost in the shuffle.
Okay, well, thank you for the suggestion. I will let Raul know that I might have already done that, but if I haven't, I will.
Please
Well, and Roy, just, you know, I tried, I mean, I think we were probably the first people you reached out to, and I was very interested in your story, and I tried at the time to get Raul involved, and then he had other things to do, and then I brought it up again. He's like, oh yeah, send me that thing again. I sent it to him again, and then you wrote to him. What I found particularly interesting in the wider scope of that story is that Paul Farrow wasn't the only one. There were 14 people who had been hired on this fake university diploma. 14 of them. And it's all detailed on the actual nyc.gov website.
Right. But the other ones were later, mostly later at any rate. Most of them were later, I think.
Right. Only this guy was on September. Yeah.
On September the 10th. Well, that, you know, I didn't see that. I'm talking about the same document you are, suppose, and these people didn't even find out about this fake university until 2002, as I recall.
No, that's talking what he was promoted September 10th. That's what I meant.
Yeah, right. But the other thing is that another thing that came up later is that Farrow appeared in British newspapers 10 or 11 years later, claiming to have been at the towers and not at Building 7. So he's like some sort of reusable puppet in this. So he you know, he's got this total fake. He's a fake fire chief, and he's fake in a newspaper story. And then, you know, I wouldn't count on his being able to get any information from him. That's for sure.
Nice.
Agreed.
Good. Yeah, please copy us on that. We'd love to
How do you
pursue.
spell that last name?
It's Paul, Paul, Farrow, Ferro. And if you check your email, I sent you the whole story at some point, and you didn't get around to it. I can look for that and resend it.
If you don't mind, I promise I'll look at it, Roy.
Very cool.
Okay, thank you.
And the contact that you had was Steve Brown, right?
Steve Brown, yeah. There's a lot of Stephen Browns on Facebook, so
how did you to him?
Oh, the way I found it was I guess I was doing a search on a particular set of search terms that I probably didn't use before, and his name came up in a Facebook group called Salty Dogs or something.
Yeah.
Something about Salty Dogs, and then he was mentioned in it, but you know, without a one of those you know, being tagged, or his name wasn't tagged, so I could click on it. But then when I went back later and looked at that, I was looking through the comments, and somebody said, "Are you the Steve Brown who lives in such and such a place?" And then he came back, and it was definitely the guy, because he was the guy with Squad 1 in Brooklyn, and he said, "Yes, that's me." So I knew then that was him.
So what you might want to do is, if you can find that post again, is reply to him directly on the post. Instead of sending him a message saying, I've been trying to contact you. We met in whatever year in Denmark. Maybe you did.
In Holland, yeah, right. Yeah.
Oh, Holland.
I may have done that, but if I haven't, I will. Thank you.
Worth a shot.
Nice. Getting Salty Fans, I think, is the group you're talking about. Vincent Dunn's in that. Raul Angulo continues to try to reach out to a lot of different firefighters and getting dead ends here and there. Like the one popular one that we know, Chief Ravulo, the one that I think, which one was that?
The steel falling like lava.
Yeah. And then the other one that said pow, 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 pow. He was trying to reach out to him as well. And it's just like these guys, some don't want to talk. And but
Yeah, that's what he said. He said the firemen don't want to talk about 9/11. Yeah, that's what he told me too.
And Raoul does put the pressure on his friend as night as I mean, he's got a presence and an ability with people. It's pretty amazing. And he keeps working them. He'll try back in a couple of months. But yeah, please
It sucks that they don't want to talk, but yeah, just keep pushing.
They're retiring. Well, hopefully things will change. Yep.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I want to say a couple of things. First, the guy in that interview, is it Tim Brown? He went to floor 23 in building 7 that morning. That was where he was based, which is where Jennings and Hess went. But interestingly, the electricity cut out for about 5 seconds, and that was the first thing that he knew. I think that's quite significant because he said the emergency generator kicked on at 7. There's no reason for it to do that. But I wanted to quickly address the notion of spraying thermite onto the trusses, right? The floor trusses. You've got two different.
The metal. It was the metal decking, Jerry.
Yeah, but you can't spray it onto the metal decking, can you?
Why not?
But well, if you hear my point here, the only bit of the metal that's connecting directly to the concrete, other than the plate, the floor plate, you've got a very high conductor of heat in the steel, right? And then you've got an insulator in the concrete. So by the time the heat's going to go through, you're not going to emit enough heat into the concrete from the steel. The steel would have to get so hot that the trusses would be falling before they had emitted enough heat into the concrete. I don't think that's the way that it was done. I think when John Cole, remember John Cole's video when he compressed the thermitic material around the head of a bolt? If you look at the splices in the core columns of the Twin Towers, they weren't embedded in concrete. They were just above the slab level on every 3 floors. So if you made a jig up, you've got the drawings, you make a jig up in a shop, goodness knows where, you try it out, you've got all your jigs made up, you compress the thermitic material onto the bolts, and as soon as you've taken those bolts out, none of the core can take any lateral force at all. So as soon as it starts to fall, it's necessarily going to go. I'm convinced that that's how they've done it. But spraying it on, in terms of spraying it on the trusses and the bottom of the floor pan, if that's what you're going to do, I don't see what that's going to achieve. I certainly don't think it's going to pulverize the concrete. I think if you've got a differential between the core coming down and it's pulling, because remember the slab went right into the core. If you've got that differential, it's pulling on all that reinforcement, and that is probably going to produce more heat inside the slab than the application of thermite would. But I think John Cole in that video, remember, I guess it can, where he blew the head off the bolt eventually. I think he hit the nail on the head when he done that, and that's how they did it. They went for the spliced connections every 3 floors in the core columns, because that's where they were spliced, and that's enough to remove any kind of, because the core couldn't take any kind of lateral force, sideways kind of force. As soon as you've taken the heads off of those bolts, then you just have to push a little bit with some material, and that's going to do it. But spraying the thermite on and not compressing it, I don't think that's going to do it. Just instinctively, when you look at the building, you've only got the top knuckle of the truss coming right through the slab that made it composite, and I don't think that's enough to conduct, because concrete doesn't conduct well. In other words, how did the bottom 30 floors of the towers, how did that concrete get pulverized? Because it would have to have happened so quickly that as the building's coming down, it's pulverized in a couple of seconds. Thermite wouldn't pulverize it that quickly because it wouldn't heat it that quickly. And I know what you're saying. I understand the idea.
I'm sorry.
It just you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it that quickly, but because you would have to embed the thermitic material inside the concrete itself. Concrete's they use it for fireproofing because it doesn't conduct heat. That's one of the
I agree.
properties of it. The material science of it doesn't add up.
We just add let me add a little bit to it. And the theory I was thinking on those fireproofing upgrades, if they did spray the undercoating of the decking, and the bar joists, the second that went off, it would vaporize the entire metal decking and the bar joists for the most part. Then the floor can no longer sustain itself, cannot hold itself up, and it's going to fall. Also, all of that.
It could. That's actually quite a point. The floor slab, if you took out, for example, 8 floor trusses in a row,
yeah,
and you just left the floor slab there itself, right? The concrete with the rebar through it, it would hold.
Yep.
It would hold.
Yes, it would if it didn't have a whole bunch of nanothermite under it blowing it up.
The other part was that if this was sprayed on the underside of the decking and it immediately turned to molten material, it's going to rain down on the decking below, and that heat would then compromise. And if anybody's ever taken a blowtorch to the top of a concrete slab, if you wait there too long, it's going to start spalling. So you can imagine 4,500.
It's a pretty imprecise way, right? To emit heat to a structure that came down in a way that suggests something very precise caused it. And I think John Cole hit the nail on the head when he blew the heads off those bolts with the thermite. In other words, why would you attack the building generally when you can attack some very, very specific areas of it and achieve the same thing with far, far less material?
An expert demolition crew would do that. They would attack those key points.
I'm very in agreement with the bolt blaster scenario. I think that's very efficient way to specifically target connections. And you did raise a good question. Even if they did do these fireproofing upgrades on those floors, they didn't do it to the lower floors, the predominance of the lower buildings. So that's raises.
Well, we don't know that.
I really do. I think one of the key things here is that the splices in the core columns were above the floor slab. They were accessible. And if you look at the ones that weren't, for example, the only ones that weren't accessible are the ones where the spire is. If you go back to your architectural drawings that have been out forever, right? Have a look at the core plan for floor 74, which is right below the mechanical level, at about the level the spire is. You'll see there's an elevator outside the core, and it's next to core column 701, 801, 601. It's at that direction. That's the bit of the building that survived. That's the bit that you would have difficulty getting to the core column slices on because they weren't accessible. I'm sure that's how they've done it.
Thank you. We're getting a little into the weeds. I appreciate it. That was great. Let's come up for a little air.
Yeah, just 2 quick comments. John Cole's theory and also Jerry, not Jerry's, but the Gordon Ross, they come nowhere near the numbers that Niels Harrit found in the red-gray chips and the iron microspheres numbers that other people have found. It's 6% of the dust. That's a hell of a lot of iron microspheres. That's not enough right at the joints. And we didn't see the interior frame collapse. We didn't see that. It was still standing. So it wasn't that. It also wasn't spraying on top of the fireproofing after the fact.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you broke up. It wasn't sprayed on top of the fireproofing, and then you cut out.
Yeah, I agree too. It
makes
was
no sense to spray paint on steel over top of fireproofing.
no, they would have had to remove the fireproofing.
Yeah. Yep.
But of course, I think it was full of asbestos too. So I don't know what they did with that shit.
All right, let's go to
But the buildings were half occupied, remember, and they were moving tenants around quite a bit. So they could have had access to every floor.
Yeah. Or a lot of them.
They had to have access to every floor. I mean, physically, to bring it down as they did, they had to have control of the elevators and be able to.
There's also accounts of people recollecting drywall dust on their desks or on the shelving by the exterior columns. I don't know if anybody heard that before. I'd followed that for a little bit. I need to corroborate that evidence. But all right, Magnus.
Oh yes, I just wanted to write to read. Yes, RDX thermite exists, and it's a term that can refer to two things: either a mixture of nanothermite and RDX, or a composite material created by combining nanothermite with RDX for enhanced performance. This combination aims to leverage the high energy of RDX with the fast reaction rate and energy efficiency of nanothermites for applications such as main-tur detonators or propellants. So that exists RDX nanothermite.
A composite mixture of RDX and nanothermite. That's something. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be used in a powder or you can apply it. Yeah, it's a very difficult thing. But I have also heard Niels Harry talk about the RDX. So I just did some research into that, and it's very interesting that it does exist.
Can you share that next week?
Yeah, it's in the, yeah, it's, I have the photo I was writing from now in the chat too.
Thank you, Matt.
If you go to Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories, Richard, in October 2000, just Google LNLL, October 2000 sol gel, and there they've got an article on it where they say that they use RDX in the sol gel that they suspend the nanothermitic stuff in.
Thank you.
In fact, I'll get it for you. I'll put it in the chat notes. I'll go and get it just now. I'll stick it in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, I tried to do it and I couldn't. Let's go. Thank you, Magnus. Interesting. Morgan, good to see you. Oh, you're muted.
Hey, everybody. Yeah. Hey, great to be here. I'm just checking in for a second. I wouldn't have said anything, but have you checked out the prior caller? I'm not sure who you are. Have you read Wayne Costy's The Banana Peel Theory, basically?
Is that the propellant theory?
Yeah, it's on that sort of like hybrid explosive incendiary type thing. And Wayne Costy goes through with an actual theory of how the building came down floor by floor and how it was, the floor under was taken. And it follows the evidence that's available, and it's really good reading. I'll just ask, have you read Wayne Costy's 2 papers on how the towers came down?
Yes, that was his. I followed your link, but it's a broken link for some reason. But it was his propelled demolition paper. He actually did an interview with Richard on it and somebody else. He did 2 interviews that I saw. I found it interesting. I think something had to be done in the elevator shafts. I think there's more to it, but I just love these pieces all coming together and everyone trying to corroborate how this was done.
Sorry to interrupt, Jin. Did you get a reply from Wayne Costa about the pictures from World Trade Center 7 that the picture I sent had proven his working hypothesis wrong, that accelerated for some degrees and hit some building around, so we had to come up with new hypothesis in the upcoming months?
No, I think
It's in the email. He asked you and me about the pictures of the World Trade Center 7 pile, and when I did, he replied that I had proven his working hypothesis wrong, and he had to come up with something better soon.
Okay.
So I'm very excited about Wayne Costa's study on Tower 7.
I will look that up. Like Richard, you get so many emails, you kind of miss some, so I will look at that one. Thank you.
Speaking of that, I did, Sandra, find your email from February of 2025 from Roy telling the whole story. So I do have that, and Roy doesn't need to email me
Thank you.
if he doesn't want to.
Okay. Thanks.
Sorry,
Thank
Matt.
you.
Morgan.
Thank you, Roy.
Yep, I'm aware of the paper. I don't know if there's anything more you wanted to say about it.
No, that's it. I was just saying it to either the first or the second caller behind, just on how they put that fireproofing on, what could have been, and where the really importance of, there's that idea that basically the connections to the core columns were nowhere as strong as the connections to the outer perimeter. And you see the core columns coming down first, the antenna, that whole thing. And I think Wayne Costi sort of paints a picture of, based on the evidence available again, of exactly how that happens, if that helps.
Yep. I appreciate
That's all I got to say. Thanks, guys. You're awesome.
Thanks, Morgan.
Thanks, Morgan.
I do like that paper. I like it. We'll leave it at that. Let's go to Sue. You're muted.
Yeah, there we go. I came across a post on Facebook today of about the elevators that I'd never seen before. Someone who worked for Hollister, what is it, Hollister Weber? And he said that they had a problem with the elevators in designing the buildings quite so tall, that the cable couldn't reach up. So that's why you had to leave on the 50th floor and get into a different elevator. And he said that he, as an employee for this Hollister, whatever it is, designed a fireproof wall around the entire 50th floor, and that this is the reason he knew 9/11 was, the official story was a lie, because there's no way that jet fuel or any fires that the collision caused could have done any significant damage below the 50th floor. And I just never heard that aspect of it before. So I thought that was quite interesting. I tagged you and Richard on that, and I'd be very interested to see if Jerry has information about this. The guy who said this in the video is Jerome Reed, who was a machinist for Hollister Whitney Elevator. He's approximately 59 or 60 years old. And he worked for Hollister Whitney from 1993 to 2004. So I thought that was pretty interesting. It was the aspect of the elevators that I hadn't heard before as proof to why the buildings couldn't have collapsed due to jet fuel or fires caused by the jet fuel.
Interesting. I did not.
There were three. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was going to say there were three elevators that went from like the impact height down to the basement. There were three that, and I think two shafts that did span that height. I've got the original contract somewhere for the elevators. I've been looking at the contracts this week. I don't see anything. Right, I'll get them to you. I haven't seen anything in the drawings that suggest anything particular at floor 50. He may have been thinking there's a mechanical level at floor 43, 44, I think, around about there, and he may have been thinking of that level. The mechanical levels are the dark bands in the towers, so they spanned two floors, and they would have had, I imagine, a particular fireproofing around the core in order to stop any, if you were going to get an explosion in the tower from a machine, it would likely have come from a mechanical equipment level. So maybe that's what he's thinking of. But I'll take a look at the drawings and have a look, and I'll get that the elevator thing to you.
Now, I don't know how to, I wanted to share the video, but I don't know the source of the video, and it's shared on Facebook.
About this, Sue, because I can't find it.
I tagged you on it, Gene.
I can't.
What does tag mean?
Put your name on.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I mean, Did you copy him on the email? Did he CC him? Is that what you need?
It wasn't an email. It was all Facebook.
Yeah, I don't see it.
I don't go to Facebook. So
Okay.
no wonder I didn't see it.
Yeah. And I don't know how to, I'm not technically savvy to know how to share the video otherwise.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I will look for
I'll
it.
go. I'll go now too.
Yeah. I just thought that was really interesting. It was an aspect of 9/11 I had never heard before. And this guy was pretty passionate about why he knows. And he says 3 other employees at Hollister Whitney also know that 9/11, what they told us was a lie.
Do you know
And
how
for
long
this reason,
you did that, Sue?
today,
Oh. It definitely didn't show up today. That's weird.
huh? Right. I will share in Messenger to
Yep.
you, Gene.
Thank you.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that one. All right, Morgan, back at you. Yep, you're still muted. Or did you mute? There you go.
No, there we are. I was just gonna throw a little tiny bit in, and that is David Alden. The North Tower is an underused book that should be a tome. And I can provide a link to that and the 2 broken links from David Costi.
Right
as
on.
far as the elevator conversation.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have that book by David Alden, although I have many books that I have to read. You know.
Have you ever read it?
I
Or
haven't.
even
I'm
touched
one of those
it, or
guys that reads the first 3 pages and then I scan through it, and then I have hopes that someday when the electric grid goes out, I will have a lot of time to read my books.
Yeah, time being the element there. Yeah, no, Alden, I don't think necessarily that he has all of the correct answers, but he provides information that is more detailed than most other I've seen about the basement and how it blew up and which came first and which came second and what the blast direction was, but also about the elevators and you know, everything that happened there. But yeah, it's definitely important.
No, right on. Thank you.
Yep, that's it.
Thank you. All right, I think we're caught up. Let's see. I did want to show just the beginning, a couple things. One, some of you may remember we had a little bit of a tiff, or I had a little bit of a tiff with Stephen Victor Andrews, the gentleman that comes in under the name Stephen Victor Andrews, which he's already come out and said that's not my name, that's not my real name, and he didn't even want to let us see his picture. He showed up in DC and showed himself. He was very cordial with Kiriakou. And then last week he was like, I'm not part of your movement. I'm not one of you. And I was just like, what are you doing? And I was a little rough with him. Forgive me. I'm trying to get better at doing that. But then I look out on the on X to try to check about, and he no longer exists. He didn't show up this week, and he completely deleted his account off of X, and who knows where this mystery man is. But that's what it is.
This after he reminded people every single week to connect with him on X, and that he really seemed to be interested in really connecting and rebuilding past connections that he had lost when he lost his account. So I'm not saying anything. I'm not reading anything into that.
Yep,
But
either. Yeah.
He went.
He bought one of the $911 tickets.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, and the reason for that was Kiriakou. He really wanted to speak to him.
Yep.
And he got a chance to do that. They sat next to each other at that lunch we had. So
something that everybody has to remember at all times is they have unlimited money. All right. $1,000 to them is like a penny to you. Okay.
If that's what it is, I know what you're alluding to. I don't know either. I don't want to start saying everybody's that, but I don't know. That just want to share. That's where that is. Thank you. The other thing I wanted to share, just little thing, light things. There was this post by World of Engineering on X. If you guys have an opportunity to share 9/11 truth, take that opportunity for many eyes. This World of Engineering account has a lot of accounts, 3.5 million followers. lot of engineers follow them. And they said, what are 3 unwritten rules of any engineering job? That was just too easy. That's bump and set. I'm ready to spike. I gave them 3 things. Don't question how WTC 7, blah, 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 fell at free fall acceleration. 2, don't ask why NIST's final report shows a model that doesn't match video. And 3, don't ask why if WTC 7's collapse could only have been a controlled demolition. 1 and 2, fire resistive steel framed high rises couldn't also be considered part of a controlled demolition. And I got a couple animated responses back, but ultimately it starts just providing an avenue for activism and awareness. So take those opportunities. Go ahead if somebody has something. Nope. All right. And then the beginning, I just want to show a little. I'm not play all 5 minutes. I'll skip ahead a little bit. But Jerry had talked about this Tim Brown FDNY guy that was going into 2 and then ran into 3. He worked in 7. Let me just let him do it because he says a lot of it. Here we go. And I got no sound. And let's try that again.
For 20 years.
Try it again. Start
At
over.
the time of 9/11, I was detailed to. I was a New York City firefighter for 20 years. At the time of 9/11, I was detailed to Mayor Giuliani's Office of Emergency Management. Within that group, I was promoted to Supervisor of Field Operations, and that's the position I held on the day of 9/11. I went into work at 7 World Trade Center, 23rd floor. That was our office. That was where our Emergency Operations Center was. And I got there shortly before 8 a.m. The power went out in our building, 7 World Trade Center, modern high-rise building with many city, state, and federal agencies in the building. It was kind of a government building. We had lots of patients in the lobby of the South Tower. We had just run by a door in the adjoining Marriott Hotel, 3 World Trade Center. And so I yelled to them, follow me, and we went right in that door because I wanted to get that building over our heads to protect us. We ran in that door. It was as clear as a bell, and immediately, like snap of your fingers, the hotel is now collapsing because the tower is collapsing on top of the hotel, as you can see in the video. And now the hotel is collapsing around us. And everything that wasn't nailed down was blowing in our face. I hit the ground, started crawling. You couldn't hear, you couldn't see. I compare the noise to like being sitting on the tarmac at JFK Airport, surrounded by 747s at a full blast. And every time you thought it was the loudest thing you ever heard in your life, it would increase by 10. You couldn't see, you couldn't breathe. The dust was so thick. And all I can think is, it's over, but I'm going to try to survive. I don't want to die. I want to live. And I know that if I can find a vertical column, that's what I'm going to hold on to as hard and tight as I can. And so I'm crawling on all fours, and I found a column, and it was really big, and I wrapped my arms around it. And the wind was so strong that it lifted me up off the ground. My helmet blew off my head. And I'm trying to hold on to this pillar in this wind tunnel with all my strength. And this was my moment.
So if you guys don't mind, I clipped in a movie clip to show this. Like this is again just a movie with Nicolas Cage, but it talks exactly what he's talking about there. 160
and what
miles.
would have experienced.
What he would have experienced. Just kind of put you in that place. If you don't mind me, I'm just going to play it through.
8-1. There's something going on with Tower 2.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just yeah, that's rough. That is, I can't imagine being in that instance. You just, that's what we're. I just, it hits me in the heart because this is why we're doing what we're doing. We want justice for this. Those were controlled demolitions, and I'm not going to give up. And I thank you all for continuing to fight for this. For Jerry's, I guess you said somebody tried to talk to him, and he's not for 9/11 truth. But there's an opportunity with this gentleman that if we could talk to him, come with an olive branch and just try to understand his story and try to talk to him. That
Yeah, and you would have probably known Barry Jennings because
if he worked at the OEM, yeah.
yeah, and Richard Rotans for that matter.
Yep.
I don't know that this guy's opposed to us or anything. I don't know of any approaches to him. I just gleaned that from what he was saying. There's a 3-hour interview out there with him.
Yes.
And I actually listened to it because I thought, I like this guy. He's been through the mill in his personal life. He goes through that. I think his interviews are telling because he maybe doesn't understand what the significance of what he's saying would be to us. And I think he gives away a few things. The power cutting out at Building 7 there shouldn't have happened. He talks about a crack that happens when Building 2 begins to come down that was louder than anything. And that there is, I think, some significant details there that he imparts. I don't know that he's entirely opposed to us or that he's been approached. I certainly wouldn't approach him, but I thought, you know, if anybody was going to approach him, it would be one of the firefighter guys that would know him because he was a 20-year New York firefighter. Yeah.
Right, but we had I don't know a lot of things, but at one point he said that the elevator that he attended to had fallen 70 floors. Now, I mean, normally that should not be possible because every elevator was, you know, it was subdivided into 3 sections, right? The only one that went all the way was the cargo elevator, and I think another one.
Yep.
So I don't know where he got the 70 out, and then he said something about the emergency brakes kicked in and jammed the. I guess that's possible.
Yep. That's how they work.
There was a fault in the elevators where they would, if they were going to stop, they stopped like 6 inches into the floor. I've read that about the elevators as part of the upgrade. But as for an elevator coming down 70 stories, if you go onto Google and just say 70 times 13 feet, what's free fall? It'll be over 100 miles an hour. It'll be about 120 miles an hour. Nobody would survive that in that elevator if it had free fallen that distance. I think the elevator was blown up the way from whatever was still on fire. He could see that the elevator doors were open from the outside when he looked down. When he looked down, it was on fire below the elevator. And as far as I can tell, the people inside the elevator hadn't suffered burns.
Right.
Right.
So how could the jet fuel come down, cause the explosion, and pass the elevator car? It makes no sense.
If anybody's interested in watching this, it's I Survived the Collapse of the South Tower on 9/11 by Tim Brown. I'll put a link in the show notes in that for you guys. Yeah, he does talk about going in to 2, people trapped in the elevator, and everything that Sandra and Jerry just spoke about. It's a really interesting story, but it raises some questions.
Yeah.
Richard, you had your hand up? Yeah.
Yeah, there's another Chief Williamson. His son, he died in the North Tower. His son is calling for a new investigation. He's aware of all of our work. And his mother and his sister are also on board. And he's in touch with several other firefighters that he wants to talk to. And I had a conversation with him and Eric Lawyer and Raul Angulo yesterday. And so that was very, very productive. So we have more family members coming our way.
Yeah.
Nice.
I would really love to see that firefighter list grow. We need, we keep saying it, we need the firefighters to get behind this in a very big way, and we need to reach out to the younger generation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. 7:00. Let's go around the room. How's that sound, everybody? We good? Yeah. Al, anything for the group wrapping up?
No, I think I'm good. Just see you on Thursday, everybody, hopefully.
Yep, for John.
And a lot of tech talk here, but it was very interesting.
Thanks, Al, for dealing with it.
That's okay. I'm with you, Al.
Yep, they're nuts. Some people are just aren't into the techie stuff. Thanks for being here, Al. JB.
I'm good. Thank you.
See you, JB. Thank you. Mike Cook.
Yeah, I got nothing. That's just my own personal life.
Hang in there. Keep it going. Morgan.
I haven't really been here for a while, but I'm really psyched. All the comments and the stuff done with the Tucker Carlson interview and other things. And I really think it's cool. And it's this thing is rolling every Sunday, and actual things are happening. And you've got the whole movement here. I mean, so this is, in effect, what I think the Truth Action Project a few years ago tried to do. And it just happened from just putting a meeting there. And what you guys have done is really cool. And what's happening on here is very more productive and awesome in every way. And it's run well. You guys are awesome.
Thanks. We're trying.
Thank you.
They're not all gems, but appreciate that very much. And I just got to say something that behind you, the E team. I never thought about this before, but Gelatin, when they were there, Austrian group, art students, their project was called the B thing. And then later on, you had the Israeli art students doing the E team. And it just made me wonder.
So I think there may be even lost links of 9/11 truth there on the southern Manhattan, lower Manhattan cultural council or whatever it was. They had on that thing the B team, which was Gelatin, and that was connected to one of the terrorist name. I'm a little
all good,
getting a little gray dust up there, but it was connected to one of the terrorists, and basically it was that a certain person had supported them economically through this Lower Manhattan Arts Council, which was doing the whole, that floor of the Twin Towers where they were doing this thing and the extension and all that. So yeah, I think that if you look at it and you really look at a few of the pictures that they did in the B thing, that big giant book and all the stuff they've done, I kind of think there's the possibility for even, I mean, you can see some stuff there.
Makes you wonder.
Yeah, it does. I mean, there are a few points where there are these lines coming down from above, and there's a helicopter above one of the towers, and there are these lines coming down to specific columns. So it's very obvious or explicitly what looks like if they were going to plan this thing. And if you look at certain plasma arcs that can take the thermate and get rid of especially very tall high skyscrapers, you can see that they can blast this stuff through an arc. And we see one of the helicopters going off of the South Tower, I think it was, before it fell, and you see this little dot. Okay, that's one of the unknown helicopters, and you see these blast points right above the building. Helicopter flies off. 10 seconds later, South Tower's coming down. And I mean, there's not a lot of research done in that area.
Yeah.
But it, again, we're trying to articulate what the thermate did. whether it was more propellant, more this, more that. We know it was used.
Or it
So
could have multiple
yeah.
uses. It could have been used as an incendiary for part of it, propellant for some of it, and an explosive.
It a myriad of uses, if you will, for sure. Yeah. I mean, we got the chemsigs all over the place. So anyway.
And I did
Thank
want to
you.
thank you. Brian pointed out the gelatin were not art students; they were established professional artists. So gelatin were professional artists, but then there were Israeli art students that were there. That's the E team. So
No, so there was Israeli artists among the artists in this top floor, but they put those lights there at a certain point, and they did the certain weird things with the extension out of the towers, and you can see like this B team was the thing, but then there's this guy, and he has a hat, and he's watching the tower. This is in their documentary, and his hat says in it's totally obvious exactly. I'm trying to get away exactly that. Maybe backwards, I'm not sure if mine is facing the right way, but his hat says E, blue, dark navy blue hyphen all caps team, and he's got a hat on. And I'm like, okay, so I mean, it's the two are intermingled at many points, and I think you can put some room between you and the gelatin thing and all that action if you want, and that's probably smart. Certain things like all the fuses things, that's not real, but really, actually, if you look at it, there's some serious stuff going on there. I don't know.
Yep. Israeli art students were selling a lot of art to
that too. That's the bigger thing.
Yeah.
Very much.
Follow
Yes.
up with that. Thank you.
Next interview, get it? Well, it's gone.
Yep. Thank you. Richard, anything for the group wrapping up?
No, thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate it.
Brian, good? Nope. Good to see you. Roy McCoy.
Sue Serpa had a big influence on me. She was writing that some people were very happy about the Tucker Carlson series, and others were frustrated that he didn't go far enough, or that he neglected certain things or whatever. But I wrote back to her. I said that the frustration transforms to something else when you realize how deep the disinformation in that series was, at least as far as I saw it. And this has sort of been generalized. You don't feel so frustrated if you don't expect anything. And like my grandmother used to say, blessed is he who expecteth nothing, for he shall not be disappointed. And, I hate to be repeating my usual pessimism, but I think I know who did 9/11. I think it was the people who had all the money. It was obviously an extremely expensive operation to pay off all those people and do all those things. And the same way that the opinion of a large majority of people hasn't mattered in several major matters, I'm not sure it would matter in this one either. And you don't even have 95% of the people calling for 9/11 truth. You have a pretty small percentage of people active in this. So, just being cynical and pessimistic as usual. Sorry.
All good.
I shall interject.
Hang on. Brett Weinstein and Ron Johnson interview. Hope to finish that. That has to be a highlight there for you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Missing. Thank you. Missing 2.3 trillion from the Pentagon budget on September 10th. Okay, that buys a lot.
Yeah.
And I have to interject again because I have to do it all the time, and I don't want to be that person. But the 2.3 missing trillions had already been announced in January of 2001.
No shit.
Yeah,
No
that was you can find websites, articles if you go back in the way. It's still there. It's dated January. I think it was January 26th, the one that I found. So it wasn't a secret. It wasn't just announced that day.
I believe you. You're a trusted source.
No, 100%.
But it was announced.
But it was announced on September the 10th, and then that all went down the hole when it happened. And I do need to give credit to the Rude Boys because they're the ones who corrected me on that.
I love the Rude Boys.
That
Ed Brotherton, yeah, he did a good job.
It's anyways, and absolutely, and they delivered the receipts, and they were absolutely right. So I'm always for correctness and truth, even if it doesn't make my case. I don't care if it makes my case. I just care if it's true. So
thank
you. You care even if I correct your case.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you came back to me with something else, I would okay, then I'd have to look into it. But I mean,
Yeah.
without
No, I ultimate respect. Yes. Thank you for staying on top of that.
Josh Schoenfeld.
Hi, Gene and Sandra.
Josh.
It was interesting. Earlier this month was the 25th year anniversary of the USS Cole bombing, but I don't think the media covered that at all.
No.
So the Cole bombing was carried out in Yemen. 17 U.S. sailors were killed, and to me, it's interesting. Khalid al-Mihdhar, one of the alleged 9/11 hijackers on Flight 77, it's believed that he played a role in carrying out the Cole bombing. Because Mihdhar entered the United States in January 2000, and meanwhile, the CIA chose not to notify the FBI about that. Then Mihdhar returns to Yemen in mid-2000. His wife is pregnant, and then later that year, he supposedly helps carry out the Cole bombing. And then July 4th, 2001, he's somehow allowed back into the United States. So I was thinking, I know earlier you mentioned Mark Rossini will be on Boston 9/11. That'll be a good topic to bring up to Mark Rossini, as he was close to John O'Neill. John O'Neill was with the FBI counterterrorism unit looking into the Cole bombing. And during that time period, the CIA wouldn't tell the FBI about Mihdhar being in the United States and having the US visa. And also they wouldn't show the FBI their photos that they had of Mihdhar also with being associated with Khalid, who was the alleged mastermind of the Cole bombing. So I look at 9/11 and related events. I believe these were all events facilitated and enabled by the U.S. national security state, maybe with the help of their terrorist proxies, Al Qaeda, ISIS, or whatever you call them. But I truly believe the United States national security state helped enable all these awful terrorist attacks to occur.
It couldn't happen without them.
Yeah.
All right. Seriously, really? I mean, they had to be involved or it wouldn't have happened.
I hope, Josh, you could be there for the Rossini interview on Boston.
I'll try to be there.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, Gene's trying to reel in Sibel Edmonds and
Sue, I hope you don't mind. I want to try to invite Sibel Edmonds,
Michael J. Sprigman.
Michael J. Sprigman, and
Whitney.
Yeah.
Whitney.
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
That would be great.
Yep.
That'd be great. I've tried to contact Sybil Edmonds too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just let the fire go. There'd be a
That'd be very long.
By the way, Sybil Edmonds is live tonight at 8:30.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next, who do I got? Well, since I have you, Sue, anything for the group?
Yep, just hope to see you all on Thursday. John Cole is going to be talking about his video, The Last 30 Seconds, and where the towers went, both videos. And you can check out his YouTube channel, which is Physics and Reason. And then following that, we will be having on November 13th, Dan Noel, and November 25th, Bob Runyon. That's a Tuesday because we don't do it on Thanksgiving Day. November and December 11th, of course, we already addressed that, Mark Rossini. And then we're not going to be doing anything until January 8th because I'm going to the West Coast for family. So for Christmas and New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a month gap there.
All right.
And just, Susan, when you send out actually, I think you already sent out, but and when you send out the reminder for John Cole, I didn't check but if you could include the 2 links to both the last 30 seconds and where the towers went, so that those who want to can watch this in advance, so that they can better ask questions when he does show up to your call.
I did include the link today. I sent out the announcement today. There will be a reminder when we have the agenda for Thursday as well. So I sent out the link to the last 60 seconds.
30.
And 60.
30.
You're toying with me.
No, last 30 seconds is the name of his video.
All right, or whatever. Okay. And his YouTube channel, which has all his other dozen videos.
Yep.
So you can check out all his videos on physics and reason. So that's a hyperlink there in the announcement.
Thank you.
All right.
If anybody needs an invite, contact Sue at sueserpa@gmail.com. Or there we go.
Right.
Norway changed time, so I had to go in. The meeting today started an hour earlier in Norway. We changed time.
Oh, you did change time. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no. Wait. Then I have to resend that email for the international call. Half the people are going to be at the wrong time. Thank you, Mac, for reminding me.
No, we're changing next
We're
week.
changing next week, so it's just
Oh yeah.
Ay, for real.
Chuck, anything for the group? Thank you, Sue.
Hey, have a good week, all. But I'll just that clip you played with that guy who went into building 3 just as building whatever it was
Tim Brown. Yep.
Coming down. He's describing the experience of those same forces that were applied at building 2. It wasn't a wind percussive effect because building 3 was collapsing around him. So that's evidence of this directed energy weapon business.
2 is falling. 3.
No, he said he went into building 3.
Yes.
And it started crumbling all around him. He experienced wind force that was going to throw him across the room.
Yep.
That is evidence of the forces that brought down the towers.
100% disagree, but okay, all good.
All right. Peace out. Hey, have a great week, everyone.
You too. Thank you.
All right. Okay, bye.
Who we next? Sean Nagel, anything for the group? Or Ross, anything for the group?
Oh, I'm here. I'm here, bud.
Hang on, Sean first.
Sean, go ahead.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Yep, there we are. Yeah, 9/11 truth. Cool, guys. Keep on keeping on.
Thank you. Good to hear from you again, brother. Ross, anything for the group?
Yeah, so the point about the Pentagon meeting on the 10th, September 10th, about the Pentagon and the audit that was going to occur, that has been cut out of the YouTube videos, the videos I've looked at. I think about 4 or 5 years ago, they edited out when Rumsfeld said we're starting the audit, because it had been well known about this problem with the Pentagon, even when he was in his confirmation hearings. But the point about that meeting on the 10th was, he said, yeah, we're starting the audit tomorrow morning. Now we're getting serious about it. I think they had already started the audit. They already knew, but the point was, obviously they already knew, but the people that were in charge of that audit and that information were at their desks at the Office of Naval Intelligence that morning early at 8 o'clock to make sure their boss, Rumsfeld, knew that they had heard him say that that audit was starting at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And that was quote unquote out of Rumsfeld's mouth. It's been chopped out of that interview. Another thing, the E-team, that's AKA how you otherwise, AKA how you detonate the explosives. E-team, electrical team. The fuses boxes that you see in the pictures with the other art group or the same artist group, I believe that was real. Well, that's enough of a clue right there. I'll tell you that. And then lastly, 6% iron microspheres were found in the dust. That means all the stuff that was blown out, not the columns that were standing still. 6%, that adds up to 200 acres of coating, which adds up to every floor being coated. And that didn't happen after the fact on top of the fucking. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Ross. Jetty, anything getting late there for you in Scotland?
Yeah, not as late as last week would have been. But yeah, no matter how expensive an operation 9/11 was, it wasn't as expensive as taking these towers down in an above-board, lawful and legal manner. But we've all paid for it ever since. Have a good week.
You too. Thank you. 1138 phone number. Is that Jack Bottomley? Or whoever 1138 is.
Steve is in the chat too.
Can you hear me?
Secret name.
Yeah, I see.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Is that you, Jack?
Okay, great.
Yep.
Yeah, I had to get a different phone mid-call because my Zoom told me my phone had to be updated and they couldn't do it at this time. Anyway, I didn't say anything during the meeting, so I'd just like to play a 15-second video and explain it for 15 seconds. Van Jones, who some people in the peace movement idealize, I think wrongly, was on Bill Maher, and he said, which I'm going to play for you, that Iran and Qatar are mounting a disinformation program, and now all our children get to see is dead Palestinian babies on YouTube and Diddy, and
respectfully,
there's
I don't understand why we go into topics that are not directly associated with 9/11.
Because we have to get to the same American public. You'll hear them in a second.
All right, just
and it's only 15 seconds. I'll try to play it right now. I hope it works. This is all set up. I just set up mid-call.
Showing a little.
Disinformation campaign they're running through TikTok and Instagram. And Bill Maher, Iran and Qatar have come up with a disinformation campaign they are running through TikTok and Instagram. That is massive. If you are a young person, you open up your phone and all you see is dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby, Diddy, dead Gaza baby, dead Gaza baby. That's basically that is a geopolitical theory that is deliberately trying to divide the West against itself.
So he got a standing ovation for that, and it shows two things. First, that the American public is clueless, and second, because you have to pay a lot to get into the Bill Maher show, and second, that there's a $7 billion propaganda program to defend Israel that has that it's in progress right now. Billionaires and the Trump administration have funded it. I'm sorry I didn't send it around. I saw information about it and I didn't send it to you. But I'm interested in how to reach the people, and that's why I bring this stuff up. We know how the towers came down. We know all that stuff more than those people in that audience will ever sit down and listen to. They won't. I know some of them. I have given them all kinds of videos and leaflets, and they won't look at them. So we really have to get to the raw thing. 9/11 was an inside job. Very simple stuff, because that's all the attention they're going to give us. Thanks.
Thank you. Sandra?
No, I've got nothing.
I just want to share a comedy clip from a guy named Sammy Obeid.
Maybe he's related to
Maybe
Kamal.
he's related to Kamal. I don't know. He's a Palestinian guy. He's really funny, and he broached the 9/11 subject. It's funny humor. Let's see. Am I sharing my right screen? Yeah, here we go. And let's play.
All right, give me something to talk about. Maybe something I know a lot about so I can really go into it.
9/11.
Oh, dude. You, man. That's what you just said, dude. I'm a millennial, dude. I remember that. Like, most people in here are of age where you remember, like, where you were when you first heard about 9/11. That's how serious that was for us. Like, I'll never forget. When I first heard about 9/11, it was September 5th, 2001. I was in a cave in Pakistan, and I was just like, no, 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 no. This is a bad idea, guys. This is a bad idea. I can't be a part of this. And I left that cave. And I came straight to America, and I got in really easily because it was before 9/11. But I did my part. I called up the Bush administration. I was like, "Yo, you guys need to know about this. It's going down. It's an attack." They're like, "We already know it's an inside job. Do you want to help?" I was like, "No, I don't want to help. What is wrong with you?" It hurts. Like, when you say something like that, it just hurts. Yo, just because I look like this doesn't mean I love my country any less than anybody in here. You remember that shit. God bless America, and never forget 9/5.
I gotta hand it to him. He did a pretty good job there for talking about 9/11. We really do. Comedy is the way to get through to people. And Jimmy Dore's there. We really wanted him to be part of the 24th event down in DC to do like an after show. Maybe for the 25th event, it's going to be really delicate and trying to broach the seriousness of 9/11, and then in the evening hours try to some type of lightheartedness, because that's really how you can break through to people. I think it's a great avenue we should be pursuing. Go back to Morgan, and then we'll sign off. What do you got, Morgan?
Sorry, a little rusty at this. Anyway, the name was Hernan Serfati, who was an Israeli military high intelligence folk that was connected to the actual drug rings and all that action, and the art students, which was highly documented. But his name was also, for a moment in time, reported to have been on the Lower Manhattan Cultural Council, or Arts Cultural Council, which was operating before 2001, or 2001. And they were in charge of the gelatin, the thing that gelatin, these Israeli or German weird students were doing with all that. So that connects literally to the major sting operation, which was hugely reported, the actual weirdness that went off with all that art and painting and buildings blowing up that gelatin did. There you go.
Thank you.
Yep.
What was the name one more time?
Hernan Serfati.
Hernan Serfati. Okay.
Thank you. You can find it. Yeah. Anyway, I just want to throw that away.
All good. Thank you. Magnus.
Yeah, you forgot me. I just wanted to say.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Video of it's okay, Jin. I have a next time, Jin. I have a video clip of a guy in the lobby says that the lobby was here, the elevator was over here, and the lobby was just as it was a bomb that went off. It wasn't from the jet fuel. No way. And it just went out. And then I had Mark Gulak. He had an office in the 7th World Trade Center on the 12th floor, and said when the airliner went over, the office suddenly went black. So I don't know what that means. If the South Tower collapsed and caused the elevator to not work, something happened before that with that power down in Tower 7. The power went down.
Yeah.
It didn't work. So thank you, Jin, for all the work you have been doing, and see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Magnus. Sorry for forgetting you there. That's terrible.
It's okay.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. Have a good evening, great week, and we'll all talk next time.
See you next time. Love you all.
Time change.
After the time. Yeah.